Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of CRT. That stands for Cody
And I'm Robbie.
Time. So, Rami,
Yes, Cody.
we have issues, right? You would say we.
It's why we do this show.
But like we have mental issues.
Yes,
We have very similar mental issues.
I always say about us that we almost mirror each other in
I
a lot of ways.
I would say the same. I think that's one of the reasons why our friendship has lasted for so long. Uh,
That and weirdness.
oh yeah, yeah. I think that comes from part of the similarity, though. Think about it, Rami. Anyone that's similar to us is going to be weird.
Yeah, no. All my friends have an element of weird to them, so
But
it's not a
Rami,
bad thing at all.
there is one certain
Similarity,
there's one certain similarity, one certain mental issue that we have that a lot of other people struggle with all the time as well.
anxiety.
That's right, anxiety. That's what this episode's going to be about. And once again, this is not going to be a good, bad, and chunky because there's nothing altogether great about anxiety, in my opinion.
Can I just say, um, we Cody and I, before we get really deep dive into this, Cody and I, since because after we recorded our episode that is on toxic masculinity and gender bias, which is up now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, we we have decided that we are going to play between formats for a little bit and see what y'all think. So
We're not
some
going.
episodes,
We're not going all monogamous with the format.
yep, some episodes may be similar to the one that we had last week,
Mm.
and some we may go back to our good, bad, and chunky format. We just it depends on the topic, but we've both mutually agreed that we would play with it. So we just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Am I wrong?
No, definitely not.
All right.
So,
Anyway, let's go.
also before we go into it, you did have a couple of points that you at least one point that you said would could possibly be a positive for anxiety. Would you want to?
Yeah, it
We're
one good thing, at least for me, because Cody can look at anxiety differently because it appears for everybody differently. Um, is one good thing, at least for me, is it keeps me motivated not to get behind or like. I'll give you an example, guys. So whenever I have work trainings to do, because in my line of work, we constantly have trainings that we have to do. I don't like deadlines. Tho- Those give me anxiety because I've been a major procrastinator all my life. Cody knows this.
hmm, it's one of the
And
things we share.
and so the what goes off for me and is in tied to my anxiety is future casting, right? So
Hmm.
if my when I get a training, my thought is I got to get it done quickly because if I don't, any sort of bad scenario could happen. I could get fired.
Hmm. I mean, I don't really
Um,
see that happening that easily. Your work
we'll
freaking
say,
loves you, bro.
yes, which is still very weird because I'm me. But anyway, um,
I mean, you're pretty good at talking about mental issues, so I don't really see it as much weird.
thank you. But you know how the voice
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh,
distorts.
definitely. Yeah.
So I, but yeah, that's. that's my one positive is like at least for me, it keeps my motivation up somehow. I mean, it's not it's kind of a two-way of looking at it, but I think it's good because it just keeps me motivated and keeps me wanting to do a good job. Yes, is it coming from a place of fear? Sure, but you know, at least I'm getting shit done.
Mm,
So that's the way I look. I mean, I guess I'm looking at it more from a procrastination standpoint. You know, because you know me, you know how I am. So,
right. And
so yeah.
just to show a contrast for our audience, while he looks at it that way, what comes to my mind is like all the times in my history that my anxiety in that has built up to the point where I have an anxiety attack or a panic attack and I end up like practically mentally shutting down for a bit, which is not fun.
Hmm.
I mean, you get to that point where anxiety just keeps building and building, and then all of a sudden you're like crying when you're not wanting to, you're not really wanting to respond to anyone, and you just kind of stop for a while.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was especially bad in college. It was bad when I worked at a warehouse. It's just not great.
No.
So
No.
that's why I can't really think of that as a positive. But
Which
I
is fine. Like we said, it shows up differently for everyone.
mm-hmm,
Um, and I was talking about this with my sister Regina today when I saw her at lunch. You know, because my sister-in-law, um, our sister-in-law, my brother's wife, she has it where she gets super overwhelmed super easily, so it's just easier for her to be by herself and just
oh,
she's very
I can relate to that.
I know
Jeez.
you can. So but we were talking because my brother is he he had mentioned to me like you seem to have it all together. I'm like that's because my anxiety is different than hers, bro.
Yeah.
Like I can show up and pretend like it's not bothering me, but when I'm alone and I'm with my thoughts, like I am most times, you know, um, it's crippling, and I just fixate on how much I've failed, and
Mm.
just like how you know my siblings, three of them are out, they have houses, you know,
Well,
they two of them have significant others. Well, three of them do. All three of them do, but two of them are married, and like I'm 30, almost 33, and I'm not out of my parents' house.
wow,
You know,
I did not know that your little sister that not not G, but your I did not know that
no, I'm talking about Misha. Monica's
oh,
not out either.
no,
But
no, but I didn't know that she had a significant other.
no, I'm talking about my brother's wife.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. You just
No,
kind of
no, no. I have a lot
I
of
just thought you kind of
folks. I
gave
have a
me a
lot of siblings.
surprise uppercut right there.
No, that would surprise. I think that would surprise all of us.
Not in
Um,
a bad way.
not no,
Just
not in a bad way. But my little sister is very much like you. My youngest is very much like you, and in the way that she's introverted, which we've mentioned before, and so she's very much in her room. And my parents marvel about how good I understand her behavior. And you know what's funny, Cody? All I have to do is say your name, when they bring her how I'm good at noticing her behaviors. It's like, yeah, she's Cody.
that's
Um,
huh.
you're welcome. You're
Yeah.
welcome. Yeah. Uh, uh, but
I
Yeah.
would show that, like, I would have that concern gif playing right now that I always send you, but
No, it's good because in a way, connecting this to our family episode, like we said, certain family members just don't understand.
right.
And my parents don't understand my little sister and how she operates, and you guys kind of have some of the similar behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm translator, I guess, you know?
Makes
So
sense.
that's all I meant. So that was way longer than it needed to be, but okay.
Um,
Anyway, anxiety.
Anxiety. It can
Um,
be a bit of a bitch sometimes.
Sometimes.
Okay, all the time.
Thank you.
But there are a lot of people who, so almost everyone goes through anxiety. The thing that separates the anxiety that most people go through from the, like, medical anxiety that some people need to take medication for is, again, the brain. A lot of people, they
Yep.
have their brains differently, and if you want, you can think of the brain as a pool or a water cooler. The feel good emotions are the water, and throughout the day, it keeps getting drained or pulled. A lot of the normal people, they have enough water to last them for the entire day before it gets refilled again.
Damn
But
normies.
there are a lot of people who, in the case of the pool, the drain is too big, so it pulls more than the pool has. And when that
Yep.
happens, you end up, or in the case of the water cooler thing, the spigot's broken, and it's always kind of, and it drains more than it needs.
That's true.
Yeah. So when that happens, you don't have anything that will keep you in. You don't have the feel good juices. So your brain will constantly have these thoughts that would probably usually be suppressed that it just expresses. Like, in the case of anxiety, you'll end up doing anything from paying attention to all the people's eyes, even if they're not looking at you. Just the sheer volume of people can be overwhelming and anxiety inducing, and you end up, you know, I don't want to mess up because there are all these people here. If I mess up, then all those people can look at me and think I'm a freak, and then it just keeps building and building and building and building and building.
Yep.
Or in, like, Rami's case, if he were to kind of be in work mode and his pool just, like, dried up, then he would go down his thoughts of rumination of, oh crap, this isn't going well. If this doesn't go
I'm
well,
gonna
then
get
I'm gonna,
fired.
yeah. So it'll just
Yeah.
keep going like that, and it makes a snowball kind of a thing, or it turns into the boulder from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and
Da-da-da-da. Sorry.
why'd it have to be snakes? But so Rami, would you like to talk
Yeah.
about some of your anxiety episodes?
Okay. So actually, yes, I would. Um, I think I could possibly. I mean, I feel like I need to stop feeling bad because I bring up so many similar stories, but you know, the only honestly, the only good thing that I do, like that's primarily good, is work. So this is going to be a work thing. Um, so I um I was at work,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I told you this. Um, you might have been distracted because you were doing your RPG stuff with your games.
Hmm.
But it was that thing about how I got so earlier this week, my Friday, which is Wednesday, um, I I always order DoorDash, right? I get breakfast because and my brain needs to wake up, right? Because I got to talk to people. And it's amazing, guys, how little things can just set off your anxiety so quickly, right,
Yeah,
Cody?
I totally get what you mean. Yeah,
Um,
it can even be something that would usually be inconsequential at all. Just like, I mean, it can be something just like you put your order in wrong for DoorDash, or it could be even something like the times that I, when I get anxious, you know me, Rami, I sometimes just like buy things.
yeah,
And you've witnessed a couple of times where I've bought things and then after I bought it, I remembered, oh, I have something that I need to pay for next month.
yep, yep.
And you have
And
helped me during those times, which I'll always be grateful for.
you're
Um,
welcome.
but the what was I gonna say? The it's a relatively small thing that can set it off.
Anyway, so I order DoorDash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get my coffee, and like I've been battling insomnia because I've been only sober from marijuana for 2 months. It'll be three. Actually, it's three now. Today. Um,
Yep.
and
Congratulations, you're doing really good, bro.
thank you. Uh, and
We all need a
so
little bit of positive affirmation.
positive, this guys. You know, I get my coffee. The person that was delivering my coffee didn't see that the bag was leaking because the bag is sealed. And I don't know if they're allowed to check it, but it wouldn't I always go to if I was doing this, which I can't drive, but if I was in a delivery position, I would unseal the bag just to make sure everything's good.
Well, so
And
what
then I'll go ahead.
what I've seen from certain delivery places is I've never heard of a delivery place putting the drinks in the bag. Usually the drinks are in like a drink holder, and the
Well, I
drinks
think
have
Starbucks seals their bags, and
the drinks
that no,
usually
we're
have like seal things though, at least from
yeah,
like
no,
other
no, no, no.
places.
They do
But
have. When I unsealed the bag, they're always in drink carriers, so it is in a drink carrier. But for some reason,
that's why you
either they
shouldn't put it in the bag, because then if it like falls in the bag, it's gonna mess up the whole. It's gonna mess up everything, the
yeah,
food, anything.
yeah,
So they
but
shouldn't do that. I think that's kind of a big mess up for
you might
Starbucks
be
if that's a
right.
common thing.
You might be right.
Mm,
But so the bag was tipped over. So I didn't get to drink any of my coffee. I'm battling insomnia. I'm tired.
right.
Um, and I have to go to work.
Mm,
Not to mention, I woke up late because of the insomnia. So I was really looking forward to that coffee. And my mom, God bless her, she offered to get me a new one. But and I love my mom, but she doesn't have the best sense of time. And
yeah.
it was one of those things that I wanted it now.
Well,
I didn't want it.
you were probably hungry and really needing a caffeine boost too.
Oh, I got my bagel sandwich, so I ate that and I drank water, which is probably honestly
Uh,
the best thing I could do.
yeah.
But
I'm
I
just
was a zombie,
I'm just imagining
and
that bagel sandwich must have been soggy.
well, it came separately. It was delivered by somebody else.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well,
but
little things, I guess.
yeah, I
It's
get
the little
yeah,
things.
and but because of that whole experience, I was late for work because I had to clean up because it leaked everywhere. So I had to clean it up. So I was having anxiety from the get go,
Right.
and I was constantly battling myself in calls because of my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't overstate this. Don't ask this question too many times. Don't keep hammering around this point. You know, whenever I'm anxiety ridden at work, I can get very finicky, right? Or with picky with my job when I don't need to be. And my boss, we have consultations, and one of my supervisors was like, "You know, Rami, I've noticed, despite everything you've been going through, because I had like 4 consultations, and I told everyone,
Mm-hmm.
this is what's going on. Just I'm not sleeping, and when I tried to relieve my anxiety by taking a shower because I don't eat lunch because the time goes by too quickly,
Mm-hmm.
um, so I almost fell in the shower.
Oof.
So even when I tried to relieve the anxiety, which it did help, like I said in my text, it did take the edge off. And you're gonna have little moments like where it does take the edge off, but then for me it just kept coming back because I also had technology issues.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no point of respite from my anxiety. I could not wait to get done with my day. And when I got done with my day, I told my mom, I'm like, I am not coming out of my room for at least an hour and a half. I kind of had a bad day. So, and I just sat here and watched YouTube and was able to breathe, but I was very, like, I was very emotional. I probably should have called you, but I think you were doing something. But I, I just, it was bad, man. I cried and like my sobriety, even though I'm 3 months sober and I'm proud, like it was one of those days where it's like, man, I wish I had weed.
Mm-hmm.
you know, because instant decompression, because that was not good, buddy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's my latest example of just how anxiety can just keep piling up, and y- I'm proud of myself for quote unquote battling it because it is a battle because
Mm-hmm.
I view anxiety as a bully, right? And it's that guy in 5th grade just poking you in the chest, going, "Hey, is this bothering you? Is this bothering you? Is this bothering you? Yes, it is. Stop." And you gotta go toe to toe, you know. And it's a hard road, It's a hard battle, but I made it through it, and I think if you can make it through it, you should be, for anybody listening, you should be very proud of yourself because it's not an easy thing to go to battle with every day.
Well, and it's not something that everyone can go to battle with all the time because there are people that are not here anymore because of anxiety and depression and
They
those kind of
lost.
things. Yeah, they lost,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the only thing that we can kind of do in this kind of everyday struggle and battle is all we can do is kind of just take up their banner and carry on. It's a sad thing. Like, it's always sad when you hear people die from it, but
Honestly, I'm surprised that neither one of us has died. So,
I think that
um,
we're very much. I think that we've helped each other out a lot through that. For that, um, it's definitely. I'm very glad that you are in my life because you have definitely helped me out through some
um, oh,
very
dude, I
rocky
couldn't.
roads.
Yeah, yeah. Likewise, bro. And connecting this to our first episode, um, you know, that's why we said it's good to have these nets. right?
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have somebody that'll that a will sit in the river of anxiety with you, but also be like, hey, it's time to get, let's see if we can't pull you out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And for me, I feel like that's you, and that's my buddy Paul.
Yep.
Um, because you guys, and it's my sister G, all three of you, um, you guys remind me, hey, you're not a total failure. You're doing good. You're doing
I
good.
I would even say that Skylar could be counted among them too, even if not the because he does help you by getting your mind off things, even if it is because he does things that
Well,
disturb you or
well,
that kind of thing.
I use him. Well, yes, but as we've discussed, there are some people that aren't great with emotions,
Yep.
and he's one of those. I love him to death, and Skylar, I love you to death, and you know that. But I guess I do think about him. Like, what would what would my best friend say? And he would probably say, just suck it up and get through. And I think, you know, back to my story for a second, I think he would be very proud of the fact that I didn't quit, right?
Yep.
That I didn't just say, okay, I'm done for the day, because I don't want to do that either, because that could also get me fired,
True.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's just about how to, I think the thing about anxiety that I tell my callers, right, is because they'll say, I just want it to go away. I'm like, it's probably never going to go away. It's something that you deal with every day,
Mm-hmm.
but your response to it is how you can fight it, right?
Yep.
Um, whether that's, I always tell them, Cody, I was like, you can acknowledge that it's there, acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Acknowledge the bully in the room. Like, I see you, I hear your loud ass mouth, but I'm not going to give in to you today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, today's about me. And for some people, that's harder because I think self esteem plays a factor into this,
Oh,
you know?
100% it does. Yeah. It's
Um,
because at the end of the day, anxiety is still our brain. It's still from our voice, our inner voice. And it's because we are our worst critics. Like,
yeah.
it's. And like what you said is something that my therapist always told me. Acknowledge that it's there. Like, say hi to it, then move on. Acknowledge it, move on.
Uh,
That's all you can really do.
yeah. And, and um, your anxiety does not make you a bad person.
Nope.
It does not define you. I think for a lot of people, they think I'm such like, and I talk to some of these people.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of these people.
So
It's
am
like,
I.
yeah, I don't, I don't like that I worry so much, and neither do you, or fixate. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the way that our brains work, man. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
wish we could turn it off, and we can't. We can only minimize it, or fight it the best we can and hope for the best. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Cody and I are gonna go do ourselves in or whatever, but you know, um, I'm not. We're not going to sit here and not acknowledge the hardness of the battle.
Yeah.
You know.
That would be detrimental to those of you that are listening. That would be detrimental to those that Rami talks to and calls. That would be detrimental to everyone that goes through this battle. It is hard. And there's nothing worse than, talking to someone who, as Rami puts it, a normie, and just hearing, like, oh, well, just get over it. Or, why can't you just smile? Or why can't you not be sad?
Snap
Or
out
any
of it.
of these kind of things where it's just like, it's not that easy. You have a functioning pool and only have to deal with this every once in a blue moon. I have a pool that drains a lot faster and I have to deal with this every day. It's
Yeah,
not as simple as just, you know, it's
and
not that simple.
and it's whether that terminology is coming from a place of hope, even though it doesn't help,
Hmm.
or love, or whatever, because like we said in our family episode, um, you know, I'm sure our family members don't like seeing us this way.
Right.
There have been many times where I've been fixated on something, um, and I just can't let it go. And my dad will be like, "Why can't just just step out of it, focus on something else?" And it's like, "Dad, I can't, even if I want to, I can't, because that's always in the back of my mind. Like, if I make a mistake at work, or if um I forget something, a more non-work example would be my dad and I had a fight in front of my nephew.
Mm.
Um, and Cody knows this. My dad and I don't have the greatest relationship, and I've stated it on the show.
Better than it
Um,
used to be.
it's getting there.
Hmm.
But after that, I called my brother, and I called G, my sister,
Mm.
and because I felt like shit,
Hmm.
because the little guy saw everything, and he was like, "Rami, quit being mean to Papa," and it broke my heart, man, because they shouldn't see that, right?
Yeah.
Uncle and Grandpa should always be getting along, but I also, I'm never gonna shield them from, like, yes, they shouldn't see that, but I'm also going to explain to them when they get older, um, that you know, Uncle Uncle has issues in his head, and Grandpa doesn't understand those issues, or didn't at the time, and you know
Hmm.
that that's why, you know, and but I felt horrible, man, because he saw everything, and then he came into my room and he followed me, and I hugged him, and I said, "Look, buddy, Uncle is gonna do better." But I was beating myself up that whole day until they went home, you know.
Well,
Um,
and I think part of the thing that beat you up about it is you use the word should for it too,
yeah,
which I mean there's a lot more power to words than I think people realize.
that's true.
Like when you use the word should, it's adding pressure to, you need to be doing this because this is the normal thing to do, and it's not. I
Right.
mean, with what you just talked about, there's always going to be fights and that kind of a thing. There's always going to be times where you won't get along with your dad, or you won't get along with your mom, or you won't get along with one of your siblings, or you won't get along with some of your friends. Fights happen. They're a natural part of life. It's because we have such different minds. Even you and me, Rami, we have differences in our brains, and we have sometimes fought. It's
Not
normal.
recently, but
Not
yes.
not recently, yeah, but it's normal to have fights every once in a while. It's normal to have issues spring up. It's part of growing, and it's part of advancing yourself. How are you going
Yeah.
to fix yourself if you have nothing wrong?
Yeah. And words like should, or, you know, I
Need
have to do
to
this.
and have to.
You don't have to do anything.
True.
You're choosing to.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people make that distinction because anxiety warps your mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, man, I should have done this better, or I could have done this better. You could have,
Yeah.
but you didn't, and it's okay. Like you're still here. I
And
think that's like the main thing about it is like at least from my standpoint, you know, you can't dwell.
right.
Anxiety likes to make you dwell, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody.
Well,
You
so am
know,
I. Yeah.
you can't you can't dwell because not that's not just acknowledging the voice and moving on,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's letting the voice tuck you in the vortex of doom.
Well, and
Um,
even if you do get sucked in, and even if you do start falling and going down that spiral, remember that doesn't make you weaker or anything. We all do that. It's a,
yep,
it's just a, it's a very normal thing. I can't count the number of times that I've fallen into the spiral of just ruminating and ruminating and ruminating and ruminating, and then just, you know, just saying to myself, I'm just going to go to bed and just sleep the rest of the day away. Or I'm just going to lock myself in my room. Or I'm just going to cry for 12 hours on end. Just, it's a normal thing. It happens. Don't beat yourself up about it. You're only human. Just try to either pick yourself up or get someone to help pick you up. Brush yourself off, take up your
yeah.
banner, and keep going.
I mean, and we get it, guys. It's probably when you're in the midst of an anxiety attack, and I can't speak for everybody, but
Oh,
I can
I
speak
can
for
speak for myself.
you, or I can speak for me, and
mm,
I think I can speak partially for you just for being there.
mm,
It's hard to do that in the moment. It's hard to like reach out and say, "Hey, I'm fucking struggling," because I think for me, I don't want to make. I'm always afraid about getting a negative response.
mm-hmm,
You know, because when your brain's on fire, mentally,
mm-hmm,
it's like any small choice. Well, that could add fuel to it, and then it could make the small forest fire into an inferno. You
mm-hmm.
know,
Well,
and yeah,
and your
the,
your brain, your brain is already panicking. Have you
yeah,
ever tried to talk to someone that's panicking? It's the same kind of thing. Stuff's probably not going to get through. You're not going to be thinking rationally. You can't hold that against you.
yeah. Lot. See, and I often say that um, with anxiety, when I talk to people or when I've talked to you, I
Mm-hmm,
think that's a good band aid for it
mm-hmm,
because it, I mean, yes, you're right. It's hard to do in the moment, and if you can't do it, don't beat yourself up.
mm-hmm,
You just ride, go through the spiral, get out, do some self care, realize, hey, I made it through. We're
mm-hmm,
proud of you. Because it's not easy. But I what I was gonna say is I think trying to be as logical as you can during the build up, which the build up doesn't always happen. Sometimes anxiety just comes, right?
mm-hmm,
But if you notice yourself starting to build up, just being like, hey, I'm starting to do this, Cody, where I'll be like, is that really logical? Am I thinking straight? No, this is the voice. And like I said, trying to make that distinction, right?
Yep.
Um,
That is something that therapists always say that you should try to do. If you notice it happening, just try to take away the fuel from that fire.
or the minute you start feeling it, go do something fun.
Mm-hmm.
Go play video games. Go hang out with your friends. Go hug your girlfriend or boyfriend or your kitty or your dog. You know,
Or
like,
read a book or write a poem. There's a
there you
lot of
go.
things you can do. And those things are
Or
good to
or
just get your
cry.
mind off it. Yeah, crying can
Yeah,
work.
I mean it
Sometimes you
does for
just gotta
me.
feel.
You gotta feel, bro. Um, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like and I think I want to bring this up. People think, because I've heard this phrase so many times in calls, and I've said it myself, and I've heard it from you.
Mm.
I don't have time. I got to do this. I got to
Mm-hmm.
do that. I don't have time. You got to make time.
Yep.
Like, I get it. Like, if you're on your way to work and you're having anxiety, put on music. Do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you can, any little band aids you can to minimize it. Because if you have other shit you got to do, if you have to be responsible for something, you can't. Speaking for me, I can't. I have to be able to have that minimization somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yep.
think it's important because you can't be responsible and deal with your anxiety at the same time. You know, I well, at least for me, I can't. I don't know about you, but
Mm, I think it. I think the degree is definitely lower. Like I can be somewhat responsive and that kind of thing. Just don't expect me to be the like to have counselor level, awareness and that kind of thing. Because if I'm going through something, I'm not going to be as put together.
no, and something else I want to touch on real quick is if you're not all there and somebody's expecting you to do something, you need to tell them,
Yep.
like, hey, like I'm here, right?
Mm,
But I'm kind of on autopilot because I'm dealing with some anxiety right now.
yep.
That in itself is acknowledging it right there,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, but, and they may not react to it the best, but that's them.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're showing up in mental crisis.
Yep.
That's enough right there because we don't have to,
And that's
you
amazing.
know?
It's amazing if you can actually pull yourself to show up while you're going through that mental crisis. I mean, there will be people that will try to take that away from you. Don't let them. There are
Yeah,
people that'll be just like, I mean, we deal with shit all the time and we're okay from it. Well,
good for you.
you also, yeah,
That's awesome.
good for you. But some of the people that say that kind of stuff also say it from a line of privilege of just like, having a fully good brain, not having a pool that drains 2 to 3 times as fast as all the other ones, or even just like having a better like background. There's a lot of things that can make it so that person can deal with the thing. But those of us that have to deal with those different mental issues, having the brain that runs out of those, the feel good chemicals a lot faster, and it's like playing a game on a harder mode.
There you go.
You're doing it. You're playing Dark
I'm doing it.
Souls.
I'm doing it on normal, but I'm doing it. You know,
I'd say that you're doing it on hard,
really.
but yeah, I would.
Thank you. Um,
I think
um,
that
uh,
I think that the different I think there's a lot of people who they don't realize or understand that what is easy for them isn't as easy for others, and they can't understand because they're not going through what the other person's going through.
yeah,
People that
that's that. Go
people
ahead.
people that deal with anxiety or depressive moments, like the emotion of anxiety and depression, they can't fully understand what people who deal with anxiety and depression on a daily basis go through.
Day in and day out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They might think that they can because in their mind they're just like, I mean, I've felt these emotions before. Yeah, but you're not constantly facing them day after day after day. You're not
or
constantly, fighting these demons. You just like had a battle or two with them, you know.
or they say, well, my wife, my brother, my sister goes through it. I have experience with it. That's not experience.
No.
You. I mean, it's experience in awareness.
Mhm.
You can be aware of it, but that's not experience. I'm sorry.
No.
And I'm not minimizing anybody who's listening to this who has a spouse, a sibling, a son, a daughter, a friend who sits with them constantly or lives with them and is witness to it every day. God bless you, because you're probably helping them out
Yeah.
more than you know.
You're probably a
Um,
very strong part of their safety net.
but or you or not. And if
Mhm.
you're not, you need to again, guys, you need to think about what you say, the power of words, like Cody was saying, even to ourselves, but especially from others, is very powerful.
Mhm.
We're not saying treat them like a baby, walk on eggshells, but if you see them struggling, try asking them what's wrong instead of
And
saying snap out of it. Go ahead.
and for God's sake, don't try to minimize it. That's one of the big things that you should not do.
Mhm.
If you say something that can in any way be equivalent to, well, it's not a big deal or anything like that, it's not a big deal to you, but to them who's going through it right then, it's a big deal.
It's the apocalypse.
Mhm. And if you take
Yeah,
if you discredit that, if you take away that whole thing, that can be catastrophic.
that could
Because,
make them want to go bye bye.
yeah, I mean, they could end up being just like, how is this not a big deal to someone? Am I broken? Am I the only one that finds this a big deal? How can I, you know, I shouldn't pull people down with me. It's terrible the places that your mind can go when you're ruminating on something that, sure, it may not be a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but in that moment, you don't care. In that moment, it's a fight. You're fighting. You know, it's.
You're fighting to stay. You're fighting to stay on um on Can Do Avenue, right?
Mm-hmm,
Because anxiety, just like Cody said, it shuts you down.
mm-hmm,
It can, uh, and you just people just need to, and I think connecting it to our last episode, Cody mentioned the power of education. I think that's why we have this show, buddy, especially with the subject today.
mm,
We want to educate these people that don't have to deal with this on the day in and day out. And congratulations. And I sincerely mean that.
yeah.
You
I
don't
wouldn't.
have to deal with it.
I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Yeah. Yep. Um, you know, but just look for signs. If most people you can tell by their tone of voices, you can tell by looking at them, you can tell just by their body language.
Mm-hmm.
There are signs everywhere. And I hate it when people say, well, I didn't notice anything. Did you really look?
Yeah.
Did you really pay attention? Because if you really paid attention, they're there,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Well, anything else you got, buddy?
Well, I kind of want to build onto that by also saying don't beat yourself up too much if there are signs that you just don't see. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we do make the signs very small. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to rope you into this, and we don't want to do any of that because sometimes we feel like we're dragging you through the mud with us. It's not great, and
No, it's not.
no. But if you can find the signs and help them out while they're going through this, it means a lot. It when people use the phrase like you talk to me off a ledge, they're not it is that big of a deal. Sometimes just like trying to cheer someone up, whether you know them or not, when they're going through a big deal, that can when they're going through stuff, that can be a big deal.
My favorite things that work does
Mm,
whenever I'm struggling, and I've said it to you many times, dealing with your helping you deal with yours, is what do you need? What
mm-hmm,
can I do for you? How can I help you? So we can try to get you to a better place, even if, or is that possible today?
mm-hmm,
Do you think you need to go? And it's like, no, I don't need to go. I just need to talk about it. I need to get it out.
mm-hmm,
You know, because I think when anxiety is inside you, and again, different for everybody, but when it's inside me, most of the time, I just need to talk about
yep,
it. If I can't do anything about it, um, I just need to talk about it to get on with my day.
yeah.
You know,
You need to release some of that pressure from it building up for so long.
yeah.
Well,
But well, any how do you want to wrap this up?
hmm. So Sun Tzu, right? The
No.
so Sun Tzu was a a big strategist in China, and he made a book called The Art of War. Uh,
Oh
he
yeah. Okay.
so a lot of Sun Tzu's strategies revolved around only fighting if you have the means to win it multiple times over. Do you know why he did this?
Why?
It's because a lot of the people that were going to war back in those days, they didn't even think about going with uh they didn't have a head for war. They didn't think of even the most simple things like make sure you have enough food or make sure that your men are well trained enough.
Make sure you
So
have a parachute.
so Sun Tzu had to pretty much write a book that told them if you can't win, don't go to war. And
But
yeah, that could be the fact for the day, or we can even go weirder if you want.
no, that'll work.
Okay.
That works. Guys,
And
we as always, we sincerely appreciate you listening. Please give us a like, leave us a comment, be kind in the comments. Um, subscribe to our channel. Let us know what you think about this format. And just give us any feedback we can. We appreciate it. With
and
that being said, he's Cody.
and he is Rami. And remember, at
Thanks,
the end
guys.
of the day, you are wanted, you are loved, you're worth it, and don't let those voices tell you otherwise.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
I'm gonna play the song again, Rami.